Do the Texans have a plan or are they shuffling? And mock draft season brings help for CJ Stroud. Let's go inside the locker room.
Yeah. It's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localize every time.
One of the best skills that Nick Caserio has shown has been the ability to pivot. However, are the Texans pivoting right now, or were they prepared for the biggest tasks that they have in this offseason? It is the locker room, number one source for Texans digital content. I am Landry Locker. Appreciate you for coming through. Nightly 10:30, SNL 4 o'clock. Shout out to Cody Stoots. Shout out to everyone in the building. I want to talk about the Texans' biggest task right now. In mock draft season, it seems like people have already gotten to where the mockers, they assume that it's a foregone conclusion that the Texans are going to be taking an offensive lineman. The two top guys, including one guy who I think has the best pulse of the Texans when it comes to mock drafts, the man who had CJ Stroud and Will Anderson on draft day of 2023, Daniel Jeremiah. They're starting to put the offensive linemen as the draft picks for the Texans. You had Mel Kiper had Simmons, I believe, from Ohio State. And I don't really look at Mel Kiper's, but Daniel Jeremiah had Kelvin Banks from the Texas Longhorns, who seems to be one of the popular guys. I think right now, the two most popular names that we hear, and by the way, shout out to BetUS TV for sponsoring the video. Always appreciate what they do for the channel. But it seems like it's become like kind of a two-horse race when it comes to the most popular name that we hear in the draft when talking draft with Texans fans. And it seems like Banks and Ibuka and Golden too. I would say Golden's popular too, but I would say that it's become Banks, Ibuka, and Golden have become the three most popular names. And as we've talked about the Texans, it appears they're looking for a tackle. And that's kind of the position they're in. I asked this earlier today. How serious are you? I'll ask you, how serious are you taking the possibility of Tytus Howard just becoming the ultimate ass kicker and being someone that you trust at one of those tackle spots? Because I wonder what the influence of everything that's happened this offseason will be on Tytus Howard. I don't think that Tytus Howard is someone that I would bet on at this point. I think it would be more of a pleasant surprise. But I keep hearing people say that this is his opportunity. And it's not just Stoots. It's not just people, but like people who follow this team very closely, people who have a grasp of stuff, people who would dismiss it if it weren't a possibility. They seem to be buying into this Tytus Howard thing, potentially being a tackle. I'm not seeing too many people believe that. I'm seeing a nope. I'm seeing a not too big on that. I'm seeing a Howard's not good enough. No way Howard represents the culture shift. He's not iron sharpens iron. Clayton says, I bet he gets hurt. Only ass Tytus kicks is CJ's when he's stealing the ball from him. So I don't know what to think. I did find it interesting though, because I was looking for like Tytus Howard. Where did this guy go? I mean, look at Tytus Howard there. Where has that guy been? That's at the NFL Combine. That's when he played his way into being a first round pick with the Texans. Where is that guy at? I mean, that looks like a guy that you would want to potentially be a tackle. That's a guy who's in shape. That's a guy who's ready to go. Do you potentially get that guy? Because that looks like someone you can roll with. But this is currently what you got. This is not the same guy. This is Tytus Howard. This is Tytus Howard when he's trying to get paid, focused, everything like that. This is Tytus now. That doesn't look like a guy that you want blocking the blind side. That doesn't look like a guy that's putting in the work. So I wonder what Tytus Howard does, and if Tytus Howard maybe creeps back to being this hungry mofo right here. That guy looks pretty good. Like someone you might want to invest in. So we'll see what happens with Tytus. I just find it really interesting that that's a possibility. Here's my other question about this whole situation and everything that's going on with the Texans. How proactive have the Texans been with the two things that they have to deal with this offseason? And I'm talking about the wide receiver, and I'm talking about Tunsil. Did they anticipate, like at what point did they anticipate, okay, we got to replace Laremy Tunsil? You could say that it went back to when they took Blake Fisher. And maybe the Blake Fisher pick was kind of the moment where they started thinking about life after Tunsil, which I think could be a valid possibility. And maybe Tytus Howard was part of that. But did they have a proactive plan? Because if it's the draft, you're not necessarily in control of that. So was there a proactive plan with that? And was there a proactive plan with Diggs? I don't think the Diggs, obviously the dead cap didn't sneak up on him. I think they probably anticipated that Tank Dell was still going to be a part of things. But did they have a strong plan when they decided to get rid of Tunsil, or did they just think it was an opportunity and something that they needed to do? Furthermore, does it matter? Let's go to the super chat real quick. You ain't never hate. Swarm. HDAV Traveler, let the good times roll. Yes, sir. We will do that. But here's my thing. If they knew this was going to happen with Stephon Diggs, I don't know that that's better. I know Texans Cap brought this up, and I thought it was a good point at the time, and I still don't. I don't think it's incorrect. Like Stephon Diggs having all the dead cap that he has next year didn't catch him by surprise. I mean, they anticipated it because they were the ones who put the contract together. So it wasn't like some sort of surprise. But does that make it better? Does that make it better if they anticipated it? Because even if you were kind of a Stephon Diggs trade defender and you thought they needed to go all in and you thought, well, you know, it's really trading back 19 spots and they knew what the pick was. My question is, does that make them look better or does that make them look worse? The best work that I've seen with Nick Caserio has been kind of a pivot where Nick Caserio has to deal with what he's got to do. He might not know how to do, but he has to make do in certain situations. I don't know that these two things were necessarily proactive. And if the Diggs thing was proactive, I think that's a bad look. I don't think this was the best. This was the best display by good old Nick Caserio and D'Amico. And we'll see what they do. Now they need an offensive line. Now they need a tackle. Or do they? Is Tytus Howard just a completely different guy? And all of a sudden, can you trust Tytus Howard? I don't think a midseason sending away of Tytus Howard is going to make sense. If you're going to send away Tytus Howard, he performs poorly in camp and then you save some money there. I don't think that happens. Tank Dell injury put a dent on the receiving core. I believe it's a couple of Tank Dell in this draft, but we're going to miss him in his route running, no doubt. He wasn't doing anything before he got hurt. Like, let's just be serious about it. I mean, you can say you're going to miss him, and I'm not saying that they didn't. And, I mean, when he got hurt, that was as good as we saw him against Kansas City. I mean, he went down in style. He caught that ball. That was one of his more impressive games, but he was a non-factor almost as many times as he was a factor last year. Not saying it's his fault. I know who we like to blame for that.
Damn it, Bobby.
But it's not like Tank Dell was just setting the world on fire. Now, you say there's a couple of Tank Dells in this draft. I don't know what that means. Does that mean you think there's like some guys you can find around where Tank Dell got drafted? Or does that mean that you think that Tank Dell, like there's someone in the first round? Like, what do you mean by there's more Tank Dells in the draft? I'd love to hear the names. Do they consider Kirk a 2? Kirk's a 2 right now. It doesn't matter whether they consider it or not. My whole thing has been when they had Tank and they had Nico, they still made the Diggs trade last year. So you need more wide receiver depth. But it doesn't matter whether they consider him one. He's their number 2 right now on the roster. And I think when you look at what they did in free agency and we really take an in-depth look at what they did, they improved the wide receiver room. I mean, they improved the wide receiver room. But they only had one guy that they could trust. Now maybe they have 1.5 in Christian Kirk or 1 1/3, whatever. Whatever you think that is. They added Berrios and Watson. I guess that's intriguing. And you still have Mechie and Hutchinson. But I mean, you take that with an intense grain of salt that they improved it. Because they really didn't have much more of an option. When it came to improving, like you add anybody. It's almost like someone that eats CC's every day and then they decide to go get a value meal at McDonald's. Like, you improved your diet. Arteries are still probably going to explode, but they improved it. The offensive line, they obviously didn't improve it. You lost Laramie Tunsil. You're not better yet. I mean, we don't know what these coaches are. We don't know if Tytus Howard is going to be worth a damn. We don't know what's up with Blake Fisher. We don't know who they're going to draft. But on paper, you didn't improve it. I think you improved the interior, which is something that's nobody talking about. But that's another example. That's like going from eating at CC's to eating at Popeyes. But Kenyon Green and Shaq Mason weren't starting. So you added guys there. So you moderately improved the interior of the offensive line. It still could very well be the worst that there is. So, yeah, there's what that is. Space Age coming back on the Tank thing. I'll go back to the counter. Landry, let's face it. Okay, I'm going to face it. Nobody on the entire Texan squad ran routes like Tank. I think Diggs did. I think Diggs ran good routes, and I think Nico runs good routes. Nobody on the Texan squad ran routes like Tank. I think they both run good routes. You want to poo-poo on what the man did because of a slow start by a crappy OC. This is like the overly sensitive, moist stuff that I find interesting. And I appreciate you for coming through, Space Age. But I'm not poo-pooing anything. I'm just saying that he didn't. I mean, I'm just saying that Tank Dell wasn't producing. I'm not saying whether it was the offensive coordinator's fault or not. So I'm not poo-pooing anything. I'm saying it, and you're looking at it as poo-poo. It's not poo-poo. It's what was happening and what we were saying in the moment. There's no poo-pooing. Poo-pooing is like minimizing something. 3 catches for 40 yards. 1 catch for -3. 4 catches for 38. 0 catches for 0. 4 catches for 35. 5 catches for 39. 4 catches for 54. 1 catch for 23. 2 catches for 26. He wasn't balling out last year. We can blame Bobby. That's fine. I will ask you, though, who was the OC the year before when he had a good year? Bobby. I think Bobby needed to go, but that's not poo-pooing. I don't care whether he runs the best routes or anything. I thought Diggs is a good route, but that's not a big deal. There's no making a point or anything. There's no making the point. Point is, that's what he did. It's not poo-pooing. People get very sensitive about Tank Dell around here. I'm just, it was frustrating watching them there not be much production. And we've seen guys after they come back from an injury, which he was coming back from an injury, pretty bad one. You see guys kind of lose a step. So that's what we were seeing. I don't know. Like, do you feel overly confident? Like if Tank's coming back off of the year that he had, and maybe he was finding some momentum against the Chiefs, but do you feel awesome about the receiver core? I mean, maybe they still add another guy and you feel good about it, but that's what happened. I don't think that's too hard of a concept to grasp. OB swarming the soup.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
They will go defense in the first. They were trying to build on the team and find budget offense help day 2 and 3. I'd bet on it. So you're subscribing to the Demeek theory. D'Amico has no O. He is all focused on the defense. Look, I will say there will be no way that they draft defense in the first round this year. I will say that. We can make a bet. If they draft defense in the first round, I'll drink 6 ounces of apple cider vinegar right as soon as they announce the pick if they go defense. Hold me to it. Live stream on the SNL channel. I'll drink 6 ounces of apple cider vinegar. That stuff's disgusting. Jake on the soup says, if Golden is still there around 15-ish, would be opposed to trading up and getting him or just hold back and get a Buka. 15, man, that's a big trade up. Like if you're trading up 10 spots, you're almost having to give up your second. I mean, it depends how much they like him. They do have an extra second next year. But I mean, if you're trading that much, then you're almost having to give up something premium. But who knows? Maybe there's a wide receiver that they're just absolutely in love with in this draft. Maybe there's someone. Yeah, the Tank Dell injury was bad, man. It was bad. It was sad. I mean, it was hard to watch. You saw the way the players reacted. It was rough. But yeah, you got to function as if Tank Dell's not a part of your plans. You don't count on Tank Dell to come back and play. That's disrespectful to him. But I think they did a good job with Christian Kirk. And I think Christian Kirk, when he's producing, is kind of in the same tier as Tank Dell. No, it's I think if he's staying healthy and if he's doing his thing, I think he can do some work. And he doesn't have as much damage. He had the collarbone injury this year, so we'll see what Christian Kirk can do. But on offense, you improved 2 of your biggest weaknesses, interior O-line and wide receiver. Probably speaks more to how bad it was but you improved it. Defense is just elite right now. Your secondary is elite. Your defensive line depth is insane. You've improved your corner depth a little bit. Defense is insane right now. Absolutely insane. I don't know what more you could want. Maybe D'Amico wants like a young backer that he can take under his wing. I think the safety thing is kind of dismissed. They're definitely not going corner early. We can dismiss that. What all can we dismiss after free agency? We can probably dismiss safety. Yeah, we dismiss safety. Even Warrior would be interesting though, but that ain't happening. So we can dismiss safety. We can dismiss corner. I'm not going to dismiss edge and linebacker. As much as I want to, and as much as I'm certain that D'Amico's not going to go defense, I can't dismiss edge and linebacker just based on potential opportunity and if he falls in love with somebody. Now, that would probably piss off a lot of people. We can dismiss quarterback. I think that's really pretty much it. Outside of that, there's probably any possibility. Maybe center because of the positional value. But I think we can dismiss those positions. Speaking of quarterback, I don't know if y'all saw this today, but it is the locker room. Shout out to BetUS TV for sponsoring the video. Speaking of quarterback, the odds are kind of jumping around that Jackson Dart really might go in the first round. And I saw Mel Kiper, and take that with a grain of salt. You never know what Mel's going to say. But I saw that Mel Kiper said that he has Jackson Dart and Shedeur Sanders being gone by 15. Now, we've talked about the dream scenario of the Texans being at 25 and potentially being able to trade back and get even more draft equity if someone falls in love with Dart. But 15 seems like a stretch, although I didn't think Bo Nix was going first round last year either. So we need to keep an eye on what's up with these quarterbacks. Kiper always has the quarterbacks mocked up, though. But if he thinks Jackson Dart's going 15, he's not just blindly talking. I mean, mock drafts are kind of difficult, but if you're gonna tell me that those two guys are gone at 15, that's good for the Texans, I guess. It's something they don't need. But that seems like a lot. Who the hell was this Mel Kiper anyway? One of the best draft moments of all time. That was so funny. Mel's still doing his thing now. Still doing his thing. We're probably going to have a draft party on the Saturday. We're going to be streaming on Friday, potentially on or Thursday, and potentially on Friday. Probably on Friday, yes. And then Saturday, we might just have a party like we did last year. Kind of watch the draft, observe the draft, put a bow on the draft. Probably go live after picks, but just find a venue and get as many people as possible out on a Saturday from the community, the locker room, Stoots, SNL community. So we'll try to get that. Someone says they could see Dart going to the Steelers. I could see that too. Evan McGinley says, no shot we get Tyler Warren, huh? Nah, I don't think so, man. I think it would be tough any year just based on everything that he did. The tight end play speaks for itself, but when like you have, I don't want to call it gimmicky, but when you have like a player who is moving around a lot, they're doing Wildcat, they're showcasing everything. They're basically just showcasing like how much of a physical freak the dude is. I find it hard to believe that someone's not going to see that and want to take him. And the other thing is, we're kind of coming off of the Brock Bowers season where, I mean, it was a rookie setting season, and there were a lot of people who thought that who thought that positional value wasn't worth taking Brock Bowers that early. But I think that's kind of changed. And I think the floor for Warren, I think at the AFC South is actually where to look where it comes to the highest and lowest of Warren. I actually think this is localized. So I'm actually glad you bring this up because you might not see Tyler Warren on the Texans, but I think that there's a good chance you could see him in the division. And I think Jacksonville and Jacksonville and Indianapolis. I think those are two areas to really keep a close eye on when it comes to potentially Tyler Warren going. I could see Jacksonville taking him in the top 5, and I could see Indianapolis deciding to take him as well. There's been a lot of tight end dialogue in Indianapolis, like a whole lot. By the way, speaking of tight ends and speaking of teams that are kind of in the division's way, you might be able to make a case that this team's more of a factor in the Texans' success than the previously two mentioned division opponents. Although I think that would be a little bit silly because I think the Colts and Jags, I don't think they're just going to be complete ass this year. But am I the only person who thinks Evan Ingram is going to feast with Bo Nix and Sean Payton? Doesn't that seem just kind of like a perfect fit? And I know everybody, you go right to the low-hanging fruit. Jimmy Graham did this. But really, Sean Payton does like have a value. Like when Sean Payton gets a tight end that can play or a running back that can catch the ball out of the backfield, you automatically think, damn, he's going to know what to do with it. But I didn't like Sean Payton. I didn't like the possibility of trading picks for him. I still think that's a little ridiculous. I think he's sometimes overrated, but Denver was pretty good last year. And I thought that Sean Payton getting Ingram, I think that's pretty good get for them. Pretty good get for them. Little man Brass in the soup says maybe Gunnar Helm from Texas. I'm a Gunnar fan, but I mean, he's got to make up for what happened at the combine. The explosive numbers weren't that great. The vertical wasn't what you thought it would be. And then the 40, he rolled his foot. There was a video of him rolling his foot. I think Helm might be a day 3 guy now. If you tell me though, that you're getting Gunnar Helm in the 4th or 5th round, I think you have to do it. And I think there's a possibility that happens. There's a lot of pretty good tight ends. I'm starting to like Fedoni from, Nebraska too. I think he's an under the radar, really, really complete tight end. He loves to lift weights. He likes to block. Kind of an underrated receiver. Kind of seems like a guy the Texans might like. He's someone to keep an eye on, but I think Helm, he definitely doesn't go in the 2nd round. Maybe in the 3rd, late. I don't know. But if you can get Gunnar Helm day 3, I wonder what Nick Caley thinks about him. Yeah, he wasn't that Gunnar Helm. I asked him about, improvements and stuff, and he said his blocking took a step back. Almost like he said he didn't pay attention to it because he was more focused on the vertical stuff. I thought it was kind of a weird comment. But yeah, I don't know what Helm is. I liked him a lot at Texas, but like, is he fast enough in the league? And is he strong enough to block? Like he seems willing, seems to have a good head on his shoulders, but the notion that Gunnar Helm was going to be TE 3 or 4, it's kind of gone over. I like JT Sanders from Texas a lot more last year. I thought he was going to be a really, really good receiving tight end. I like Helm okay. Maybe like a day 3 thing though. But who knows? Jake Johnson on the soup.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
If the top wide receivers that we like are gone, should we trade 25 for a 2nd and a 3rd? Don't threaten me with a good time when it comes to a trade back, especially if you can get day 2 picks. You already have 3 now. If you're telling me that you can have 5 day 2 picks and then you have a couple seconds next year. I think that's kind of the wheelhouse. I think when it comes to paying guys like they're going to have to, and by the way, Derek Stingley is going to speak tomorrow. We'll react to that. And shout out to BetUS TV again for sponsoring this video. But if you're gonna do that, I'm okay with it because those guys are cheap. Like if you can find guys like you did with Bullock and Lassiter, it really helps you be able to pay guys like you do right now. And I also think they're really good in the second round. So I'm very, very open to trading back. I actually kind of prefer it. But with where they are right now, they might just keep their eyes on a tackle and a wide receiver and try to figure that out. So we see how that goes. Someone says Stover over Helm. Yeah, but you have like 3 or 4 tight ends. But yeah, I think Cade's going to come back kind of a mofo, kind of a fool with it this year. I would assume he's been working out a lot at the facility. But they're different players. Cade's a little newer to the position. Helm, definitely a better receiver, better ball skills. Cade's a little bit more of a dog, probably more of a blocker. But yeah, I mean, if Helm is like what you think he is, I don't think that those guys would really impact each other. As a matter of fact, if they're both doing what you like, reaching their full potential, which rarely happens, then they might actually complement each other decently. But I just don't know about Helm at this point. Be sure to like the video. Tyler reminding you. 210 in the chat, 38 likes. Go like the video. Evan says, after Genty's gone, who is left for RBs for us? I like Amarion Hampton a lot. I like Travion Henderson. Those are really like the two creme de la creme running backs. The drops have been interesting because there's always someone who drops. McMillan is getting thrown out there as a guy who could drop now out of Arizona, which would be kind of wild to me. Genty's kind of getting thrown out there as well as someone who could fall. I don't know, but the problem with the running backs for the Texans is that if you don't take one at 25, and I think a lot of people would be upset by it, if you don't take one at 25, then you're kind of, you might not, all the good ones might be gone by the time you draft again. So that's kind of something to keep an eye on. But there are a lot of good running backs. But if you're just talking elite, I like Travion. I like Hampton. That would be my go-to. The wide receiver, are we still driving the Teagan Quintariano train? No, it's gone. It's gone. We're good on that. It will be funny if he's back at camp, but yeah, he blew it. I mean, not being active for that playoff game after everyone got hurt, including Cade Stover, and all of a sudden being a scratch, even I got to jump off the Quintariano train. That was rough. I think Blue's going to be available in the 5th or 6th round at this point. Someone might fall in love with the way that he runs routes and stuff, but he's getting drafted. Like, let's make no mistake about it. He's getting drafted. I think he's a really, really good receiver, and I think he was underutilized as a receiver. All you got to do is watch the Ohio State game. Hell, you can watch the A&M game, the way that he mossed that dude and caught the fade. But good fade, not bad fade. But I still like Blue too, and I think he's clearly a day 3 guy at this point. He didn't break Worthy's record like he discussed at the combine. So yeah, I still like Blue. I think that's more of a complimentary. I would take it back and take Blue. I'm a big Blue fan. Thoughts on Kelvin Banks or Cam Robinson from Little Man Brass? I don't know about Cam Robinson. I don't know if Cam Robinson's really got much left in the tank. I'm not going to say that's as bad as the Matt Khalil stuff that we talked about yesterday, but that just kind of seems I like Banks. I don't know why other teams don't like Banks. I think the difference between the Texans not liking Banks and other teams is sadly, I think most of the teams drafting in front of the Texans probably have better interior offensive lines than the Texans. So they don't really have the fallback of playing him at guard. The thing about the Texans with Banks is if they don't think he can play tackle, which I think he can, they can just play him at guard because they need guards too. So it's kind of like you have so many needs and you have glaring holes on the offensive line to where Banks might make sense for them more than others. I don't really understand the fall, but the fall is happening. Yeah, I mean, Jaden Blue's he's a good player, man. I mean, he would be someone that you could use multiple ways. I mean, you can get him out there, get him on the field. He can be return man, gadgets, all that. I think he's kind of an underrated runner. He fumbles a lot, though. The one thing about Blue that I think really hurt him, and you might laugh about this because this is usually quarterback talk, and I feel like it's often ridiculed, mocked quarterback talk, but he's got small ass hands. And normally, like if there was like, if you're successful and you have small ass hands, like, and there's like no reason to question the hand size, then you can probably just like skate free. But he has a fumbling problem. Blue does have a fumbling problem sometimes. And when you have a fumbling problem and then you find out he had the second smallest hands at the combine. Second smallest. So when you have the small ass hands and you have a fumbling problem, it kind of explains the fumbling, but it's not like something you can really do about. Maybe you just high and tight like Tiki Barber. Don't know. I don't know what they're looking for in a back. Omarion Hampton says that he compares himself to Joe Mixon, says he wouldn't mind playing with Joe Mixon, says that he wouldn't mind complimenting him. I don't care if Joe Mixon does the same things or if the running back does the same things as Joe Mixon. I don't care if he compliments him. They just need as many backs as possible. Period. They need to get out of the Dameon Pierce, Dare Ogunbowale business. And if Joe Mixon is out for an extended period of time, they need someone that they can trust. And if Joe Mixon is done after this year, they need to find someone who can replace that. Very easy. Just get the backs. Easy for me to say. They got to figure it out. But I do anticipate an offensive heavy draft. For sure. But proactive doesn't mean good, to go back to what we were talking about with the Diggs and the Tunsil thing. Some of their best work is done kind of on the go. So proactive, whether they anticipated getting rid of Tunsil when they did or not, doesn't matter. Because they were proactive with the Diggs thing and it doesn't look awesome. So it doesn't mean good. That's one of the lessons of the day. There will be a pop quiz on this. Dare is a Texan for life. He's going to be playing. He's probably going to play longer than Flacco. We're being honest. They can't quit Dare. We can't. It's amazing. Like, that's like the hidden value. The Ogunbowale thing. And I respect the hell out of what he's done. I respect it. It's damn sure not the ideal complimentary back, though. We're just being honest with each other. Dare's the new weeks. What if Dare can deep snap? Would it surprise you? Like if, I mean, he's already kicked a field goal. What if Ogunbowale comes to camp and you're like looking over and you're like, wait, what the hell is he doing over there with Fairbairn and Townsend? And it's like, oh, he just decided that he's going to pick up deep snapping. And, you know, we didn't want to waste a roster spot on weeks. So now we have a guy who can play running back, deep snapper, emergency kicker, and special teams ace. Hell, we might even line him up in the slot, which they've done before. What if Dari was just like the super utility guy with a long snapper? British Brooks is hurt. I don't know if British Brooks is going to work in this. I mean, he's going to have to block his ass off. He was a good story last year. He might be a practice squad guy. But I don't know that British Brooks, like in this offense, what they're looking for is going to be the fullback. They worked him there last year. We'll see. We'll see what Kaylee thinks of that. Nah, you don't get rid of Davis. You don't get rid of a backup quarterback that makes $5 million. And I don't. What would his trade value be? Like, what's worth giving up a good backup quarterback? Why does everyone want to trade Davis Mills? He makes like what did he sign for? 4 or 5? 5 milli? He wants to be here. Good backup. Don't trade Davis Mills. It's insurance. Chase knows the analogy, the car insurance analogy. Yeah, don't get rid of Mills. Keep Mills here forever. Let him be the backup forever. Let's give Davis Mills like a lifetime contract as the backup. I have no problem with it. Everyone, like, there's always like a, hey, trade Davis Mills. What's the trade value there? I ain't trading Davis Mills. Hell no. You can't roll on the street without insurance. Preston swarming the soup.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
We need Kevin Walter and Owen Daniels type of guys on the offense this year. Who do you think that can be?
Race car.
Are you saying they need white guys? Is that what we're saying? I'm just kidding. But who is Kevin Walter and Owen Daniels type of guys? Like in the draft? I don't really know that there's anyone like in the draft that's like Kevin Walter like, but when I think Walter, I think slot and I think blocking. I don't know that we want that. Do we really strive for that? I think we've like gotten used to like we've gotten used to just not having good number 2 receivers to where we talk about Kevin Walter, and I don't think everyone does this, but like, was he really that good? Like, if Kevin Walter were the number 2 guy right now, wouldn't you kind of be like, damn, we suck? He just happened to have Andre. Owen's good too. I don't know that you strive to find the next Owen Daniels. Probably want to find someone a little bit better. But as far as like lunch pail type of guys that you're talking about, maybe Jack Besh out of TCU. A lot of people like what he can do. He likes to block. Restrepo out of Miami, although he's probably a little bit shiftier than Walter. That's probably where you're at there. As far as the Owen Daniels, I don't know. There's a lot of tight ends in the second. I'd say Fedone is probably a little bit more explosive, but the Owen Daniels types, don't know. Walter could block. God, it's crazy. The wide receiver just gets all the credit for the blocking. But I appreciate you for asking. They definitely could use either one of those guys, Preston. Maybe Christian Kirk's nice, and you can find a Kevin Walter type. Don't know. I was at Buffalo Grill before the draft last year. No, 2 years ago. Shout out to Buffalo Grill. Buffalo Grill is pretty good. It's not as good as Jackie's Diner. If you want a diner in Houston, me and Stoots are big Jackie's fan. God, Jackie's is good. Jackie's just like goes in. They're open till 3. Avalon's all right, but Jackie's goes in. Jackie's goes in. They had like freaking pho as like a special one day. Like they do everything. I didn't mess with that. I went with the omelet. But to get back to where I was going.
high-grade marijuana called Kush on the streets.
So I was at Avalon and Kevin Walter was there, and I guess he had a bunch of his kids with him, and they had some sort of game. I don't know if it's baseball, soccer, football. I don't know what it was, but the kids were there, and they couldn't have been. They probably middle school kids, but they were arguing about C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young, and there was like half the table that wanted Bryce Young, the other half wanted C.J. Stroud, and like I think one of the kids was like, Bryce Young's too little. He's gonna die in the league. And I was just really proud of the parenting skills of Kevin Walter. To be honest with you, I gained a lot more respect for him there. As I heard his kids sitting there talking about Bryce Young being too small and arguing about quarterbacks. Always brings a tear to my eye when I see that. Brevin Jordan, you are talking about him in the chat. See what happens. I don't know. I feel like the legend of Brevin Jordan grew because the other tight ends were so bad when he was gone. I don't know if there's any guarantee that he like shines last year, but I mean, he damn sure was better than what they put out there. So we'll see how he comes back. He's walking around fine. He's smiling. Looks like he's in shape. Looks smaller. He honestly looks like a lot smaller. He's cut, but he's pretty small. In a good way. But we'll see what happens with Brevin. They love that guy. I don't know how good he is or what, but we'll see how that goes. But the Diggs and Tunsil plans, we'll see how those go. We'll see how the Caserio proactive versus Caserio pivots, how that storyline plays out. We'll see that. You can bet on everything, like online, like you can bet on everything from like Texans taking O lineman, Jackson Dart goes, Golden before this pick, all that. It's actually kind of crazy. I've never been someone who can like bet on the draft pick, unless it's like this guy's not going first round or this guy might go first round, but like some of that stuff just gets nuts when you're drafting. But to answer one of the questions of the day, I would say that the offensive line and the wide receiver has improved. The interior of the offensive line has improved from the start of free agency to now. That much? Who knows? Dietology's just bringing some topics up. Okay, here we go. This is some thinking. A rando you thought would be good. He says he thought Jalen Strong would be good. Random draft pick that you thought would be good. Jalen Strong. You were pretty high on Jalen, huh? I'm trying to think. I thought Kiki QT was going to be nice in the slot. And he had like the franchise record for catches by a rookie in his first game against the Colts. It was a lot of dump offs. But I was actually kind of surprised that Kiki QT kind of just gradually fell off. I don't think he was the best practice guy. But I would say my rando would probably be Kiki QT. Ryan Willis says Braxton Miller. Yeah, that was just kind of the freak athlete type of vibe. I don't feel like you were alone on that. I don't feel like you have to feel too dumb about that. Duke Ejiofor, God, didn't he tear his Achilles twice in a row? He was like the king of the preseason. He was just massively just breaking boys off and then got hurt. Fedorowicz was good. He just was such a meathead that he couldn't avoid concussions. Alfred Blue, you're alone on that one. Steve Slayton, Kahali Waring. Kahali Waring, the water polo tight end, as we called him. That was what we called him, the water polo tight end. He was a little bit, I mean, there's no way that he was doing his own homework. Kahali Waring. Preston's crazy. Yeah, the Kiki jersey. Kiki got that boy jersey still. Are you a Tech fan or you just like Kiki? That's an interesting purchase if you're not like a Tech guy. You could be a Tech guy that likes it. But yeah, he said he had the Kiki jersey. How about that? The 16 throwback. Respect to that. Most picks are going to be bad. That's the other thing about the draft. Like more times than not, the pick's not going to work out. Like if you just went through the draft and you basically just said everyone's going to suck, you'd probably be right more times than wrong. There's no exact science. There's exceptions for everything. There's like examples to like back up anything. There's no exact science to the draft. So there's kind of that Amobi Okoye. God, everyone made such a big deal. He was a dynasty pickup in Madden though, because he was like 19 or whatever whenever he came into the league. But I think everybody thought he was going to be cold. At that age, that was like around when the Madden dynasties first started, right? That was one of your first picks. That young mofo. Everybody was going with the Amobi Okoye. Some funny stuff. I kind of want to get a little bit into this maybe tomorrow on SNL, but I feel like something that's happening with the offense has been one of the more significant changes for Nick Caserio. And when Nick Caserio first got here, like there was a lot of, I think it was fake outrage, but there was talk that because you just had like a tyrant and a king in King Bill that tried to do things the New England way and it just completely fell apart. There was naturally like a little bit of skepticism with someone who was in New England the whole time with Belichick when it came to Caserio. And one of the sources of outrage was his involvement in offense and the fact that Nick Caserio, hey, where's the headset? You remember hearing that? Which I thought was weird. I actually thought it was tight that he wore the headset because Tom Brady and Josh McDaniels wanted him to. And he was basically there's videos of it, but basically he's like telling them, you know, what the coverage is, what they came out of, and all that type of stuff. So Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, and Josh McDaniels liked Nick Caserio on the headset. I thought it was fine. Had no problem with it. There was also his familiarity with the New England system. And I think there was a lot of joy whenever the New England system died and they transitioned into the Shanahan / Slowick form of offense. Now it feels like we're going back to the hybrid. And I remember looking back at Nick Caserio when they were hiring DeMeco Ryans after they pissed away the number 1 pick. And let's not call that a blessing in disguise. That was stupid as hell. To not have Brandon Cooks inactive after he wanted to be traded and have all that go down, like that was stupid because you lose control. You lose control. Now, if they were going to do the wrong thing, that's another thing, but you lose control. You would rather have control, especially with the position that important. Because if you think that they got Stroud, what if the Panthers end up taking Stroud? You got Bryce, which I don't think would be too bad, but I digress. But that was stupid. But I remember going to the press conference and seeing Caserio, and my big theme was, okay, this is neutered Nick. Nick is neutered. He's kind of been humbled. And I think one of the interesting things was they just completely abandoned the offense that Nick Caserio had been a part of for 20 years or whatever. And they went to an offensive system that he wasn't really familiar with, that he was kind of learning on the go about. And it ended up not working. It worked early on, and then it ended up not working. And now we're hearing about the hybrid offense. And you have a guy in Nick Caley who came from New England, went to the Rams for 2 years. Cole Popovich is going to be your offensive line coach. There's some other Patriots guys. And I'm not sitting here saying this is Patriot South. That's definitely not the case. We're just talking about assistant coaches. But it does feel like Nick Caserio might be a little bit more involved in this offense. Does that mean he's going to have a headset on game days? I doubt it. But it does feel like Nick Caserio, and quite frankly, DeMeco Ryans might not know what the hell he's doing on offense. He might not know what the hell he's doing on offense. So maybe he needs some help. But it does feel like Caserio, for the betterment of the team, for the betterment of the duo, he kind of took a step back and let Demick do his thing on offense. And now I feel like we could be seeing the start of Nick Caserio getting more involved in this offense. He's definitely probably going to have a little bit more of a grasp of what Nick Caley's going to do than what Bobby Slowick was going to do. So I think it's possible that we see a little bit more Nick involved. Is that a good thing? Don't know. I think you could have worse resources. But I think Nick Caley probably has a lot of respect for what Nick Caserio brings to the table, given the fact that when he started his NFL career, it was in New England. And if you ever see like the videos of the meetings in the offense, Nick Caserio is a big part of that. So I could see Nick Caserio being more part of the offense. D'Amico handles the defense. Could definitely see it. Swarming back to the soup.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Herman with the message. Like and subscribe. We all in this together. The catchphrase. You're getting ahead of me, man. I guess we got to keep the false starts around because Laramie Tunsil's gone. No, I appreciate you. Yeah, be sure to like the video. I don't want to beg, but if you want to like the video, like the video. Shout out to Herman. Preston, again, the man. Nah, just like how he played in college, I'm UT all day. So you're a Texas fan. Shout out to you. Me too. Section 24, row 39, seat 1. Texas. Back in the day. Big Texas fan. I got Texas. Yeah, this was from my first game. Longhorn game. Just random. It's here. Slow news day. Let's see what we got. Oh, shoot. Yeah, Texas back in the day. This was Ricky Williams back in the day. Little by the fountain, they had like some pep rally, and I had a football. Little like the Reebok jersey. Ricky Williams right there, back when he rocked 11. And then he just passed it around to the whole team. Everyone. John Malkovich. Like this was the Big 12 team. Good old Ricky. Texas memories. And then I had Phil Dawson, the longtime kicker. I had him sign the tee for the thing. Texas all day, but I stomped around in Lubbock for 6+. So both of those spots, close place in my heart. But born in the Austin. Good old memories with the UT. Trips down memory lane. Old school. Did Slowick know what he was doing? I don't think Slowick's like a adjuster or like an overwhelming like alpha leader. I think he knows football. I think he can be a good resource for a coach who calls plays. It's kind of Matt Burkish. Like, I don't know that I would want Matt Burke to be the DC. I think he's a good resource for D'Amico. I think he's smart as hell. But you want D'Amico calling the D. For sure. Landry and Ricky both on that.
High-grade marijuana called Kush on the streets.
Man, Ricky. He was, if only they would have had the weed acceptance now compared to what it was when Ricky was there. Might be better off. Might be better off. Shout out to him. But Caserio being involved in that offense, I think we really gotta keep our eyes peeled for that. And we got to keep our eyes peeled out for what they're going to do with 25. It's going to be interesting. We'll see how it goes. But I appreciate everyone for coming through. Some would say this is the slow time. I think this is a good time. We're getting to, once we get to April, that's when the draft gets real. Right now, this is kind of like, I think this is like the after free agency to there. There's like a little bit of a lag. But the content never stops here, never stops on SNL. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to like. Be sure to ride along. Shout out to BetUS TV. And always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. Appreciate y'all for coming through.
Can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days. Opinions to give, we got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up. We number 1. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize, every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too.